करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
We'll begin with Swamiji's rendering of the Polonius advice in Hamlet.
Polonius advice in Hamlet. There, my blessing with thee. And these few precepts in thy memory, see thou character, give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new-hatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel of proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are most select and generous, chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee. From Hamlet by William Shakespeare, Act 1, Scene 3, lines 57 to 81.
The last poem that we saw, the Daffodils, if you say it is a complete manual on the spiritual path. This extract from the famous play of Hamlet by Shakespeare can be considered as a complete manual on practical guides, practical Vedanta, you can say, practical guides for our own self-development. William Shakespeare is considered to be by many as the greatest playwright and a poet in the English literature world. And there have been so many valuable quotations from many of his plays. Of course, we have not directly had the fortune of studying it in either school or college, but thanks to Swamiji, we have seen the movies in Vedanta Academy and discussed. And very often in his lectures, because of his association with the English literature, Swamiji has profusely quoted, and many of the quotations come from the plays of William Shakespeare. In this famous play called the Hamlet, there is this sort of minister of the king Polonius, and Polonius has a son named Leartes. Leartes is going to France for his higher studies. They are all in Denmark and they are going to France for his higher studies. On the eve of his departure, Polonius gives a set of advice for his son. And that is why, like in the last poem, you will see that none of the lines in this poem are highlighted or italicized and given by Swamiji, because each and every line is so important. It is so practical and it is so relevant that none can be taken as you know, that alone captures the essence of the poem or something like that. Each and every line is very, very essential and very powerful. So, on the eve of the departure to France for higher studies, Polonius gives advice to his son Leartes. And this particular portion alone, these 25 lines, I mean, we can say that it forms a complete literature by itself. It can be directly taken and studied and applied in our day-to-day lives. To that extent, it's very, very practical. And what is interesting to notice, those who have been following our Swamiji and his lectures, the main emphasis in terms of direct advice is to develop the intellect, and it has been sort of his favorite thing, not just his favorite thing, it is the most essential and important thing that one needs to focus on. See, when we talk about spiritual organizations and religious organizations and the teachers, their duty is to guide the followers, disciples and society in general towards the correct path. And the connection is through introducing them to God in some form or the other, and that is where all the religious literatures and everything come into place. See, the religion not only, it talks about at three levels. One is at understanding the truth in essence. Second is to give a practical relationship between you and God, and that is where the poem like Daffodils comes in. What is it that you do in terms of Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc. So one it is to understand the essential truth, which is the core, which is the the highest philosophy, which is the real substance. Second is in terms of your introverted practice, how is it that you establish your relationship with God? But religion does not stop there. It also helps you at the third level to maintain your interpersonal relationship with all beings in the world. And that is where morality, ethics, various things comes into picture. That is also the essential purpose of religion. So many masters, many sects, many gurus, many people are doing, and they're all doing their job in their own way, and our prostrations to them. But you find that I really do not know, I cannot comment on others, but Swami Ramatirtha has indicated, and later Swami Chinmayananda and in his lineage our Swamiji, they have laid much emphasis on this development of intellect. Intellect is the faculty in you which is the discriminating faculty, and it is unique to the human being. And you need considerable time and effort to develop this intellect, and this has to be done only by you. This cannot be done by school education. This cannot be done by the proper thing. Of course, because the parents and others at home are also not trained that way, therefore they do not lay much emphasis on this because they are just not aware. So therefore, where are we going to learn this? It is the duty of the spiritual institution, of the guru, to develop one's intellect so that he becomes more prepared to face the world, and for him to strengthen himself from within, not just to face the world, to find the direction in the world and move in that path, in the purpose of being a human being. That is very, very important. And what is interesting is, all this knowledge is essentially derived from our Upanishads, the Vedas, and then the later texts which are based on Vedas like Bhagavad Gita, and then later on like texts like Bhajagovinda, Mahatma Bodha, various Vedantic texts essentially at the practical level which talks about strengthening the human being, essentially boils down to self-management. Today, I mean, you might have got the mail or the WhatsApp about the work-life harmony, where we talk about self-management, and the self-management forms the basis for all the corporate seminars of Swamiji also. What is basically self-management is to develop the intellect to control and guide the emotions of your emotions. Uncontrolled emotions, uncontrolled mind is that which is going to cause havoc in your life. So you need to develop your intellect. So therefore Gita says the friend and the foe is within you. You have to raise yourself by yourself. There is no other remedy for you. Others can help to some extent, create a conducive atmosphere, but the onus of development is there within you. What is interesting is these basic facts, when we also find it in the literature like of Shakespeare and others from the West, it is even more, inspiring. So it is just not talking about our Bhagavad Gita and other literature, but it is universally found. So this also proves one more thing, that any person who sets his thinking in the right direction has to come to the same conclusion also. So the truth is universal. It is not applicable to Hindus alone. It is not applicable to men alone or women alone. It is not applicable to certain jati or varna alone. These truths are eternal principles. And what we often talk about mind and intellect, which is not directly found in our scriptures, you find that has been laid much emphasis in this Polonius advice. So it is fascinating how Shakespeare begins with that. We'll get into the poem. There, my blessing with thee, and these few precepts in thy memory. So as he is taking leave, as a father, he is blessing the son, so he is giving his blessing. And these few precepts, some few teachings from few points of advice that I am giving, let it be there in your memory. So that is how it begins. So few important points that Polonius is giving Leartes here. See thou character. It's a famous quote on character, I think Lao Tzu or somebody, who says, everybody knows, you get it often in the WhatsApp messages also. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your action. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. And watch your character, because that is going to be your destiny. It all begins with the thoughts. So when we talk about character, what is this character? Character is essentially what the stuff that you are made up of. That which is the inner core of your personality, as stored in the form of your mind and intellect. To the extent that which is refined of the mind and intellect, is to that extent it reveals as your character. Okay. We also in Vedantic knowledge talk about what is known as vasanas. Vasanas are nothing but those impressions that have been created in your personality, which further manifest as your personality, and these are created in your personality by your past actions. So the past actions create this present vasanas, and present vasanas go into the present thoughts, desires and actions also. So actions and vasanas, they are nothing but like the seed and tree that is essentially forming the stuff that you are made up of. So if at all you need to work on your personality, you need to work on your character. Obviously vasanas we do not know. It is the unmanifest personality, and only when it manifests we can understand. So the deepest level that we can go to is our thoughts. So carefully watch your thoughts. Carefully notice what are the things that are mainly coming into your system. And this is what is going to essentially decide how you are going to conduct yourself, how you are going to behave in a society, behave with other people in your family and other things. Everything is revealing your character. When the Ramayana begins in the form of sage Valmiki asking the question to Narada, he is talking about the highest qualities in a human being, and about so many qualities, around 32 major nice and high level qualities he is giving. And can you talk of somebody who has all these qualities? And that is when Narada gives the synopsis of Ramayana and says, it is Lord Rama, and why don't you meditate upon Lord Rama? So whenever we talk in terms of a character like Rama, why is he still adored? Forget about whether he is avatar of God, another thing. But a very immaculate character who is considered as a Maryada Purushottam. Purushottam is one who is the best among men. So why is he able to live in the minds of people even after thousands of years? Is that because of the extremity of the character that he shows. In each and every role that he plays, whether it is a son, whether it is a husband, whether it is a king, whether it is a friend, in each and everything he reveals the depth of the character. It is the character that is actually making you attractive to others. So you only watch what your character is, because character is something that is formed over a period of time, and after being formed over a period of time, it is very tough to change. It takes a considerable effort. Even physical development, another thing, it takes much effort to change, isn't it? If you want to have a weight loss program, or if you want to change, become more slim or something like that, it will take time. You cannot do it overnight by popping in a pill. It doesn't work that way. It may have then very serious side effects. Like that it is. Exactly like that. So this is also, I'm deviating away, but one of the things that if you see sudden change in the character of some person, you be very watchful of that it could be short-lived also. There have been very many examples like that. So as far as all this advice that he is going to give here, you have to turn inward and apply it upon yourself. The whole idea of these advices is for us to turn introvert and apply these things in our own lives. So watch out your character. You cannot change the world. You cannot change the way that other people think or behave. You can only try and change yourself. It is difficult also, and it will take time, but that is the only thing that we can attempt. So even as we attend classes like this and we try to read Bhagavad Gita, remember that it is for changing our thought process. It is very easy for us to even understand what are the right things and wrong things in life. Even as we gain some experience, we will know it. But the question is how to do it, and that is where Vedanta helps in. It ingeniously lifts your thoughts, expands your awareness and consciousness to the highest level of the self constantly. It is saying that you are nothing short of an infinite self. That sort of a thought is again and again put in. So by this, it is able to pull you from your lower nature and peg your thoughts on the higher aspects of your own self. So always watch your character. In the ladder of fall also, we saw that if we do not watch these thought flow, it can go into a greater momentum from where to retrieve will be very difficult. So therefore always have a constant check on your character in terms of what you are. So it is basically what he is saying is the focus must be on yourself rather than extrovertedly on others. We saw in the first poem that Turkey and the Ant that it is very easy to point out the mistake in others because mind's nature is to be extrovert. But the great masters always say that you have to turn introvert. The time and energy that you spend in criticizing others, if only you spend a fraction of it in trying to correct yourself, it will do a lot of good because heaps and heaps of dirt is there inside within us, and how many janmas it will take to clear, we do not know. See thou character is a very, very basic and fundamental advice in the very beginning, he says. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought is act, extension of that. And this is where we said the importance of intellect comes. The vasanas are there within us in the unmanifest way. Vasanas comes out as thought at the level of the intellect. Further, they come out as desires at the mind level. Then at the body level, it comes out as action. And similarly, what we speak at the words level is also expression of our thoughts. So mind level, it is thoughts. Speech at the words level, the speech level, it is the words. And at the body level, it is the actions. Give thy thoughts no tongue means whatever comes into your mind, immediately don't speak. Because whenever you utter the word outside, it is like an arrow that has left the bow, you cannot take it back. Like that, you have to be very, very careful in saying whatever you are saying. You have to be very, very measured in your words. All this comes out of your intellectual strength and objectivity only. Before a person finishes a statement, we want to jump and give our opinion. He's going to say all those things. Because it is very, very fast in our words that the thoughts, when they flow indiscriminately, it has to, invariably come out as words. So he says, give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. This is the most famous chart that Swamiji uses in self-management, is that body does the actions, but the body cannot act by itself. The actions of the body have to be directed either by the mind or the intellect. If the animal acts according to the emotions of the mind, it is okay because they are programmed in the nature like that. But human beings should not do like that. Emotions is a virtue, and having a passion is a great power and energy within you, but your decisions and actions cannot be based on your emotions. In other words, emotions is good, sentiment is good, but being emotional or being sentimental at every point of time, that is not going to do you good. So, nor any unproportioned thought is act. So, the moment a thought comes, you have to scrutinize that thought under the microscope of the intellect. If only the intellect sanctions, should you do. Be it in terms of your sense perceptions also, more importantly in terms of your actions. Do not just act because you feel like doing something. The famous example of the diabetic patient wanting sweets is relevant here. So he likes sweets, and you offer sweets to that person because you do not know that he is a diabetic patient. Because he likes sweets, his mind will want sweets. It says, I want it, I want it. But if the intellect is there, it will say, no, you should not have it. Not according to Bhagavad Gita, or because doctor, he himself knows for sure that is going to do harm to his personality. Suppose if you are not diabetic and you have not had much sweets this week or this month, it's okay. The intellect will say, go ahead and have it. In either case, it is the intellect that has to sanction. So this is not again to restrict or constrict yourself. That is why he beautifully uses the word unproportioned. It is intellect knows how to proportion. Otherwise, the mind does not have any sense of proportion. It will go completely this side, or in the name of self-control and other thing, completely the oscillation will go, pendulum will go to the other side, and it will deny itself of any contact also. That is completely out of proportion. So, see thou character, give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. So, what is essentially self-management is intellect's control of the mind. The mind acts like a river. The river is so useful for the society. It gives you drinking water, space for navigating your boat. For those who eat fish, it gives irrigation. You can irrigate your fields. Everything is possible, and that is why cities are built on the banks of the river. But the same river, if it crosses the banks because of flood, it devastates. It kills people. Properties are lost, it may create disease, various things can happen. So, is river a boon or a bane? It is actually a boon as long as it is contained within the banks. If the river breaks the banks, then it is going to cause havoc. Exactly like that, mind is the river, emotions is the river. If the banks of the intellect are strong, then the same mind can do wonders under the guidance of the intellect. But if the intellect is weak, then the mind breaches, and that is going to create havoc in the personality. So he says, your action must follow the intellect, the dictates of the intellect. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. This is a line that Swamiji always uses in the leadership seminar also. Even in some verses of Gita, when you find a particular high thought of, let's say, like a Sita Prajna and all is explained, you will find that the extremities of the expressions are there. So what we have to understand from the message is that, from the verses is that, in each and everything there is a proportionate middle path that we follow. Be thou familiar means you must be definitely friendly and you must be available for all. Say for example, even in your own building or society, you must be generally aware of others, and others are also familiar with you, and you are most importantly accessible also. So in other words, irrespective of whatever your position is, whatever your status is, whatever work and other things that you do, you maintain this friendly feeling that you are available for others. Like we saw in the village preacher, that he is a man of great wisdom and knowledge, but a person who is like a beggar and a spendthrift and a retired soldier, all are his friends. Like that it is. So it is not that, oh, that person, you cannot even approach him. This type of thought should not come into anybody's mind. And particularly when it is a leader of an organization, the chairman or the managing director, the principal in the college, the teacher, whatever it is, whoever is in the leading position, they must be accessible and available for the last person of the organization also. Yes, according to the position and time and the work involved, you may not be able to be amidst them at all points of time, and you may not be able to talk to them, all that is understood. But if there is a need that arises, you must be accessible, and that channel must be also easy. All that comes from your own assessment and positioning yourself like that. So for your position, you can be in a particular place, with people like secretary and others around, but there must be a atmosphere in that organization that everybody feels very comfortable and they feel that they can express themselves to the leader. We have seen, but ours, you can say it's a small organization in a place like academy. Of course, now there may be a little more students and there is a structured and streamlined line management that is being followed there. But even now, if any person wants to have an appointment and meet Swamiji, of course we go through the process for the smooth functioning of the institution, but he is there. Not only in the academy, any person who has maybe attended lectures any part of the world, whether it is access through phone or a personal appointment, whether in the city that the lecture is happening or anywhere, it is possible. So that way, that person is familiar. But he says, but by no means vulgar. Vulgar comes when that familiarity becomes too close in its expression. So there was a principal in a college in Chennai who was literally feeling very friendly with the students, which is good. But he descended to such an extent that he would put his arms around the friends and maybe even play a game of cards with them. If like that it comes, you per se you may say what is wrong with it, but what will eventually happen is that the students will tend to lose their respect for the teacher, for the principal. See, the principal can be friendly, but he is not a friend. Remember that. The managing director is having a position, the head of the family is having a position, and being friendly is an attitude, but actually becoming a friend is something different. Here I am not talking about friend in a very negative way, I am talking about being close and very familiar, forgetting the position. So if it becomes too close in any relationship, it descends to vulgarity. It is not that we want to be like that. When you are too close and when there is no sort of awareness about how our relationship is even developed, sometimes we will not know what we speak, sometimes we will not know what we will act, and it becomes extremely then distasteful. So he says, be thou familiar, you be available and accessible for everybody. You be generally, you can say Hari Om to everybody, like that it is. but by no means vulgar. Vulgarity is too close, and the expression becomes something very bad, and that happens without your awareness. So in each and every case, it is the awareness of the intellect that is going to draw the line actually. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. Of course, he is going for his higher studies, and it is at this stage that you definitely form friendship. And friends are very, very important, association in one's lives. Most of the time, our deep friendships are formed in childhood. Though in college life also it happens, but it's from our limited experience. We can say that in school life we form greater friendship, and some of the friends continue to remain as friends throughout the lives. Friendship is nothing but a beautiful relationship formed based on love. When it comes through relationship, it is sort of forced, okay? But here it forms very naturally, and that is a friend, a stranger, and he becomes a friend. That is why when we say, even in molding children also, when we talk about parents becoming friendly, each and every relationship also is equated to that of a friend. The wife behaves like a friend to the husband in various circumstances. Of course, she has various roles. She's a minister and various other things. We are not getting into that, but the relationship is clearly that of a friend, and that is love is the basis of that relationship also. And then when you say when a child becomes a teenager, the parents should act friendly. So being a friend is a very important relationship. Okay. Now he says, the friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. A proven friendship is what is worthy of pursuing. Otherwise, we know that why we should get into any further and further samsara at all. We already are born in this world. We are already having various relationships. Most of the relationship we get into in a very unintelligent way, and then we do not know how to extricate out of it. Over and above that, you want to invite more and more people into your life in the name of friendship and other thing. It is going to be extremely a painful thing. You are carrying that samsara and the burden of that on your shoulder. Why should you do that? So, it is important to have friends, but it also is important to know who your friends are. The old Tamil poetry says, when the pond is filled with water, all the crane and stork and other birds come there to feed on the weeds there, and the fish they take there. But when the pond is dry, they just go away. But it is the lotus and other plants which are there, they are the true friends of the pond, because in the tough times, only then you will know who your real friends are. Oliver Goldsmith, I think, he talks about friendship, and he says, and what is friendship but a name, a charm that lulls to sleep, a shade that follows wealth and fame and leaves the wretched to weep. He says, what is friendship but a name? I am your friend, thick friend, this friend. Nowadays, you become friends very quickly in all the social media. You become suggested friends and this and that like that. He says it's just a name. That's all it is. There's no real depth in the friendship. And a charm that lulls to sleep. That means you are now confident that friends are there, and in that it makes you sleep. It makes you feel extremely confident. But they are not really your friends. A shade that follows wealth and fame. They are friends of your wealth, your fame. Like the birds that come because the water is there. And leaves the wretched to weep. When you are really needing them, they are not there for you. So that is not really friendship. We see friendship even in our scriptures, Krishna and Sudama's friendship. They might not have meet each other for long, but they are connected at the level of the soul. Hanuman makes sure that Sugriva enters into a contract of friendship with Lord Rama because he understands that is the only way to salvation for him. Guha, and all these by character of Rama, they may turn later into devotees also, but essentially it is based on friendship. Okay, So to that friendship, and who is a friend? A friend is one who will, there is no formalities between friends. They mingle with you, okay? They become extremely casual with you. They will not have any, he may even take your purse and take your money without your knowledge. Like that it is, okay? And a true friend is one who is available for you at the right time, and most importantly, irrespective of whether you like it or not, he will say what is the right thing for you. That is a friend. And that is why the Vedantic knowledge given in the form of smritis are referred to as Suhrit Samhita. Suhrit means a friend. A friend will be sometimes even be stern, but he will say what is the right thing for you. But through the thick and thin, he will be always there with you. Such a friend, he says, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hash unfleshed comrade. Like train friendship, just because you met somebody in train and you developed a conversation, and next day you are going your own way, and for that purpose you need not spend all your money on that person, like that. He says these are all passing things. Certain things you will meet somebody and he is seeing if he can extract anything out of you with reference to his business, and you are talking. So these are all not really the people who you should entertain, he says. Do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched unfleshed comrade. They are not even tested. It has not even started. So how do you know that they are worthy of friendship? It has to be a proven friendship, he says. Next, beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Never ever get into a quarrel. See, if you think of all these advices, it is only asking you to become more and more introvert. As I said, you have a lot of things to do in life. You have to correct your character, you have to change your thought process, you have to set goals, you have to pursue that. All that is what is important. And you need to relate to the world to the extent that it is required. Definitely it is there. In the process of unnecessary samsara that we create, we get into conversations, we get into various arguments. All this is going to take away your time and energy in a big way. So all the energies that you try to gain by your sadhana, let us say you do meditation, you do study and other things, it gets frittered away in unproductive channels. So never ever get into a quarrel. See, we have discussed it before that the difference between argument and discussion is that in argument, it is more about proving who is right. And discussion is positively used as proving what is right. That is very important. And a productive discussion will definitely help in resolving various things. So the focus is taken away from that ego, that I am right, this sort of thing. And that is what is the basis for, and then it develops into a quarrel. Quarrel is unnecessary fight. There is so much of then emotions that are invested in it, so much of words, and it has a telling impact on your health and body also. So, even if somebody is saying, how can you say that? You better say sorry and all. Just say sorry and go away. I mean, it's not a big deal. No, this is prestige. This is self-esteem. How can you say? Don't say all these things. These are all another forms of ego. It is just that you want to resolve the matter and go, because these are not worth your time and energy. Like that it is. But principle means principle. How can he say like that? He did not even say thanks. These things becomes trivial as you grow in your stature. But very importantly, he says, but being in, if you are forced into it, okay, you try to avoid at all costs. Even as you leave the scene and go away, but if you are forced into it, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Then there is no mercy shown. You have to finish him off. That's all. You have to put him in place. All this has to be done impersonally. That's what it is. See, it is said that do not wrestle with pigs, because they are happy to be in the gutter. They will pull down you to their level, and irrespective of whoever wins, they are happy, and you are there in their level. That's what they say. But if that pig is a pig with some rabies or some disease, and it is creating havoc for the society, it is better to wrestle with the pig in its own level, finish it off, and then clean yourself. It is required. So why should you do it? Not because you have any personal enmity with the pig. That has to be done. Exactly like that. Some people are there who unnecessarily create these quarrels, and in the process it may harm the entire classroom. And see, so there are people who of course, we don't encounter that much in our classes and all, but there are some classes in which you see that they will ask questions for the sake of asking questions or to prove themselves or enter into an argument. At that time, beyond a point, the teacher has to, raise his voice and put him in his place. And you have to create that atmosphere. Why? Because others are there in the class not to waste their time. They have come for knowledge, means you have to respect that. So for which if this has to be done, this has to be done. There is no turning back after that. So, but being in, bear it that the opposed may, beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Again, a very beautiful quality. All this can come only when you are focused on your own self-development, nothing else. So, one of the essential tests we can say of whether you are approaching the Vedantic knowledge correctly through the classes, through your study, through your sadhana is that the focus always shifts on in each and every experience, in each and every circumstance as to how to develop myself. What is it that I can learn? So the moment this thought comes, each and every encounter, any person that you encounter, every experience that you encounter turns out to be a classroom. They are your teachers. So give every man thy ear, irrespective of whatever way in which the other person expresses itself. He might be even giving certain things out of anger. But you be objective from your angle, your point of view. That is difficult, but that is the advice here. Give every man thy ear. Irrespective of whatever even the child says about something, be patient to listen to it. It may not be relevant and it may be wrong also, but you must have that. And what comes is our notions and our preconceived ideas, they jump out immediately to say that no, I beg to differ, I don't agree. No, wait. You need not agree or disagree, that can come later, but have that objectivity and patience first to listen. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. That is why probably we have got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Only to a receptive adhikari should you open the mouth, and even after he has indicated that he is ready to take advice from you. It's not that you must not help people, you go all out and help, provided you have that knowledge and that capacity to help. But others must be prepared to listen. If you are going to give free advice without the other person seeking it or wanting it, it may bounce back upon you in a very ugly way, and it might be counterproductive. So you be when people are seeking in a suggestive way, you can always say. So give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. You must be happy about people criticizing you also, because they are the ones who are pointing out your mistake. As I said, irrespective of whatever frame of mind that he is talking about, you just listen to the words that he is saying and see if it is applicable. You are the best judge of yourself. You know it, but still, if it is not applicable for you, well and good. You need not react to it. But if there is something that is getting pointed out by somebody else, you can work on that. You should work on that. So take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. You need not be judgmental about others. Even as you are analyzing others' characters from the point of view of you relating with them, you assessing them, you need not paint the other person in a particular color based on what you see in one time or the other. See, in other words, you must, the Vedantic point of view is to view every person as the divinity personified only. Yes, you will not want to associate with that character of others which is hampering your sadhana, and that is also essentially aspect of satsang. Satsang is to move with good people and good characters and good books and everything, and a proper stimulus at all levels that we contact with. But even as you relate to people, you are able to relate to the positive character in them. That is what you need to be worried about. Other side of the person, what is it? Okay, it's like goodness bereft of the guide. So you need not judge the other person on based on whatever his character or whatever his words and action is. Reserve thy judgment. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. From now on, it's very, very interesting and very practical from the point of view of money and other aspects, materially and physically. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy. Of course, we have dealt in detail when we had the session on how to deal with money, that what is important in life is to feel rich and not just be rich. Being aristocratic and being rich is different, if you understand the spirit in which these words are used. You are rich if your desires are contained within your income and your assets, in general you can say. And irrespective of your balance, you are poor if your desires are more than your needs and wants, and desires are more than what you have, what your income is. So, richness or poverty is not per se in the wealth quantum alone. It is in relation with your inner desires also. So, Vedanta's essential message is to be self-sufficient. So, that extends itself and shows in the material way and how you spend, how you deal with money also. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy. So you cannot compare yourself with others, and you cannot, set the benchmarks based on others. It is that is very wrong. In fact, comparison is the root cause of all evils. Okay, so you must be happy and self-sufficient with what you have, and that also he says, not expressed in fancy, rich not gaudy. Underline that, rich not gaudy. Rich is that. Whatever is your means of living, the house that you stay, the car that you use, or other gadgets and equipments that you have, various things, it is not expressed in fancy means it is not expressing itself in such a way that it is meant for others' attraction or to prove something to other or for ostentation or anything. Yet it is very decent. In your own means, you can keep it everything in a pakka and a very nice and decent way. Rich, not gaudy. So suppose if you can comfortably be in the level of a Maruti car level, have it. I have a Maruti car. If you are very comfortable at some other car at a higher level, Honda or something, be with that car. Nothing wrong with it. And if you can afford a Mercedes, that is fine. But how you conduct yourself with all these things is also important. Gaudy is a vulgar expression or a display of that same wealth. So whatever you have, you can be expressing yourself in a very nice way. So that person, irrespective of his financial position, low class, middle class, high class, all that is not the discussion, he conducts himself in a way that he feels rich about his position. That is very important. Not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel of proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are most select and generous chief in that. It's probably France is the leader in European civilization in terms of language, culture and development and advancement, education. They are much ahead of others, probably in that time also, and that is why this Leartes is also going to France for study. And he says, apparel oft proclaims a man. What you wear, how you express yourself, he says, oft proclaims a man. Most often that is the case. See, this is where the idea of simplification and standardization also comes in. Just because a nice and neat dress and the way that you need to present yourself is important, that does not mean that you go out of your way to decorate yourself where it does not belong to your position. See, there are even people, and we would know in India, in every household it happens, in every community it happens. we have this habit of not throwing the old garments. It is being passed on to the, it will go to the cousin brother, or it will go to the driver, or it will go to the servant, or somewhere like that. Those who can't afford, you give those old clothes to them. And there are people who just neatly wash it, clean it, and they iron, press it and wear it. It will appear on them as though it is a new dress also. And it is the way that in which they present themselves. That's all it is. It is so when they come out and present themselves, you will not even make it. To his level, he has come out as a very paka gentleman. Like that it is. So therefore, and there can be very rich man who has so many dresses, but when he comes out, it can be very crumbled and not pressed properly. It all is an expression of his inner thing only. It is just that, yes, see, we may say, what is there in a dress? It is just that what your awareness is in terms of each and every aspect of the expression of your personality. That's all it is. So there is a perfection in everything. And not only that, the terms of the color combination and other things that you wear, most often it is the simplicity and the taste of it that is getting appreciated. A person, just because he can afford all the jewels and he or she wears everything all over the body, it is just to prove that I have it all, that's all. But somebody in that function might come with just one necklace or earring, and all this has aesthetic value also. But that person will be noticed, because it is just not that what you wear, it is further decorating the inner character that you have. That's all it is. So it should go along with that. And that's what he says, for the apparel oft proclaims the man, and French are the best in that and most select generous chief in that. Then it's a very important advice. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend. It is a very, very, as I said, all this comes from the basic quality of being self-sufficient. You should never borrow or lend. Each and every person must learn to live within his means, and this is the extension of the self-sufficiency only. We have this habit in almost all households, everywhere you will see that, particularly maid servant may be there, driver may be there, they will always say, give me extra 5,000 and every month you cut 500 at every month. This should not be encouraged. In fact, Swamiji said, at the time when academy was very young, it had started just then, and there were few servants who were working there, and their salary and all was not very big at that time. And they would, like in every other place, they would ask this. And when the students came and reported to Swamiji, he said nothing doing. They must know to live within that. Whatever is required for them at any point of time, that will be given to them. This must be your approach. See, if you can afford, you pay the fees of your maidservant, son or daughter in the school, or you help them whenever it is required, and that is, help is done not as a borrowing or a lending. You just give it to them. Whatever you can to anybody for that matter, you give it to them. It should never get into this habit of borrowing and lending, because then the relationship itself is spoiled. And this thought of always this money has not come and this and that will be there. It creates a lot of tension and negativity within you. And otherwise it was a nice friend and nice other things, it simply goes away. So that's why very beautifully he says, for loan oft both loses both itself and a friend. It will never come. See, the person who knows how to be self-sufficient, why will we even go and borrow? So if he is not satisfied with himself and he is wanting to do something extra by borrowing another thing, that greed and that other thing will only increase further. So why he says oft is most of the time this is the case. And in some extraordinary situation, that is to be dealt separately. You have to use a sense of proportion. But often this is the case. So never ever be a borrower also. You must also know how to be self-sufficient within your means, and never be a lender also. And this has been the bane of the business. To each and every businessman or a entrepreneur, Swamiji asked this question first as to what is his debt equity ratio. What is the So if I am having, let us say 25 crores and I can do comfortably business with 25 crores, I am not immediately I want to borrow another 25 crores from bank and do it at a higher level. And if it is at 50 crores, I want to borrow another 50 crores and do it that level. And it may appear very nice because you are accelerating fast and growing further and all that is there. But at any point of time, you are not owning it. See, suppose in this concept of installment, EMI and hire purchase, all this is not known to India. Of course, recently it has become part and parcel of our life also, but otherwise it is not there. You think about your father's generation or grandfather's generation, they will collect money, then buy a house or something like that. If they want to go on a foreign trip also, they will collect money, save money and do. So saving and growing that way is a very essential habit. See, we may not be experts in economics, but at least we can relate this to Vedanta in this way, that whatever is your self-sufficiency, if it is there in all aspects of your personality, including the money, including the economy, the growth is there organically, slowly but surely it will grow. So, in terms of then, what happens then to the GDP of this, all that is secondary. The point is, every business runs on loan. Every person, there is bank loan, this loan. Always you are on a tenterhook that anything can happen anytime. And why do you want to carry that tension with all these things if you are not able to eat peacefully, sleep peacefully, and relate with the members of the family peacefully? For what then all this, then your achievements are? When in Ramayana, in Tamil Ramayana, Ravana is defeated by Rama and he goes back. At that time, his state of mind is described by the poet Kamban as that he says, Kadan Pattar Nenjam Pol Kalangina Nilangivan. Kadan Pattar Nenjam means a person who is a debtor, how he feels very agitated inside. Like that was the state of mind of Ravana, he says. Nowadays we do not know, it could be the mind of the creditor also who is wanting, but what point is, in both the cases, one who has lent money and one who has borrowed money, both are not peaceful. For loan oft loses both itself and friend. Extension of that is the macrocosmic level in the society, and the proof of that is how what is the report with reference to the state of economy in America and other Western societies, etc. And borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. In the whole macrocosmic level also, it does affect. If you look at the way in which rich nations of the past, particularly which has been India and China, 1 and 2 for many centuries, they have been there. It was a society that was not based on foreign capital, investment, loan and this and that. There was a completely different economy that was functioning. And that was not based on this. It is a separate subject to be dealt with. But if you are able to view economy from this angle, because economics is not a subject that is divorced from the personal and the cultural life of a society. It is very interconnected. And this has been the state. Those who have depth in the economics, they will explain this further. And borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. And lastly, this above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. This is the final advice that he gives, and this above all, this is the most important piece. He says, it is above all. What is that? To thine own self be true. Very powerful words. All the time we try to be true to everybody else except ourselves, and in that process we can never be true to anybody. You cannot be true to yourself, you cannot be true to anybody if that is your approach. Rather, if you are true to yourself, then you can be definitely true to others also. This is the only way. And this is a very key piece of advice. Now the question arises as to, and that he says, that it must follow as night the day. So what is meant by being true to yourself? There is a quality called as Arjavam, and that is given in Bhagavad Gita. Arjavam means straightforward, being upright, being truthful. When Parikshit threw a dead snake around the neck of a rishi, and the rishi's son came. Actually, he did it in a fit of a desperation and emotion. He would not do that. He was a very dharmic king. And then he comes to the palace and he is extremely agitated about what he did. There are entertainers, there are people who are dancing to entertain him, to bring him back to his senses, but nothing is working because he is extremely agitated, because he knows he should not have done it and his own conscience is pricking him. The son of the sage he also becomes angry and gives a curse that whoever did this will die within 7 days, bitten by the great snake Takshaka. The sage says, why did you give all this curse? It is not necessary. The king did not do it intentionally like that. Anyway, whatever is done is done. You go and tell the king. So he sends a messenger. The messenger goes to the palace and says, this is what a curse has befallen upon you because of your act. The son of the sage has given that you will be dead within 7 days. That very moment, Parikshit is extremely relieved because he had this quality of arjavam, straightforward. He says, I did this and I deserve this. This is called straightforwardness. So what is straightforwardness? Being true to yourself is, in the beginning he said about thought, word and action. What is there in your thought and what is there in your words, and what you do as action must follow the straight line. We tend to think one thing and then you camouflage and say some other thing and your action is something different. Extremely a false personality. And how does this happen? This happens only when you have a deep conviction. So you develop intellect, with reference to that you set a goal. For achieving that goal you have certain conviction in you, you practice certain values, and all those things you must be very, very strong about. And that is what is the strength of this quality, straightforwardness, arjavam is all about. Never ever, if you want to say no, please have the guts to say no. And that will resolve a lot of problems. Just for pleasing others, don't say yes when you want to really say no. Similarly, don't try to say something very polished and which you do not mean. And when you have something in the mind, don't flatter somebody for the sake of flattering or something. All this is extremely opposite of being truthful. Being truthful is, here we are not talking about being curt and being extremely harsh. You have a way of expressing it, but that should not go against the basic principle of what is the truth within you. So that conviction that you have, suppose even with reference to your sadhana also, you have come to a conclusion, let us say after deliberation, that you need to follow the path of being a vegetarian. Then you must stick to that conviction at all costs. That's why he says, and it must follow as night the day. You must do it at all costs. We all we said in the very beginning of this poems when we had this value education, we tend to compromise when the price of the stake is high. Even at the cost of your giving up your life, that I will not budge from it, that is called as conviction. One step further is you will live for your conviction, that sort of a thing. If there is a confusion, if with the best of the effort also, if your intellect is not able to come to a conclusion, follow your conscience. Your conscience is the voice of God, as it were, functioning within you in a sattvic state of mind that will guide you always in the right direction. Like the magnetic compass which will point towards the north, your conscience will always point towards the higher. And this is called being true to yourself. Again, in practical terms, it is all right when we have a goal, when we have a conviction, when we have a vision, and then you go for it. It's very good, and very few are those who have this. When some deep desire from you is actually giving a call, attend to that. Be truthful to yourself. Do not base your life based on societal and peer pressures. Irrespective of whoever, whatever does everything, you be truthful to yourself. Say, for example, it's better to have a conviction that, let's say, a person has this thing that I want to dedicate myself to study, reflection, self-realization, so I will not marry, and I want to dedicate in this path and take up sannyasa like that it is. It's wonderful. If you have that Dhrida Vairagya, do it. As you go along, you feel that your vasanas are not meant for that. Maybe the inspiration was right, but maybe you need to go through certain worldly desires and actions, then raise yourself to that level. Be true to yourself that irrespective of whatever others say or something, you follow whatever is your Swadharma. That needs a lot of conviction. That requires a lot of courage and conviction. And that is what he says here. So following your deep desire is being true to yourself. If you are following your life like this, then you cannot be false to any man. This is a wonderful conclusion to this. And lastly he says, farewell. My blessing season this in thee. That means think about it. First he says, these few precepts in thy memory. So have it in your memory. Like how the pickle seasons when it is there for a long period of time, then it like matures into taste. You work on this, you think about it, you reflect upon this, then this will become your thought process and character. It will decide your character like this. From Hamlet by William Shakespeare, Act 1, Scene 3. Right. Before we conclude, we will just take up Swamiji's commentary.
This is an extract from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Polonius' invaluable advice to son Leartes on the eve of his departure to study abroad. An advice which will serve as life's guidelines to all humanity. Apply your reason and judgment to every word and deed. Be familiar with people, but not so intimate as to descend to vulgarity. Base your friendship on deep emotion rather than surface whim or fancy. Avoid entering into a quarrel, but when forced into one, let others beware of you. Listen attentively to one and all, but speak only to the deserving few. You may lead a rich and comfortable life, but not indulge in a vulgar display of wealth. For exhibitionism proclaims one's character. Do not be a borrower or lender. Borrowing dullens your management of affairs. Lending ends in loss of known and friend. This above all. Be guided by the voice of your own conscience and conviction in thought, word and deed. Never falter in this discipline. Your life then will be truthful and fruitful.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.